the studios can't formularize their business. They basically go in, make a movie for as little as they can make them for, and now that seems like somewhere between 100 and 200 million dollars, and then they spend as little as they can to market it, which these days looks like around 40 or 50 million dollars, and then they all just go back to their mansions on Friday night and start praying to whatever particular god that they're involved with, and hope that on Monday they don't get too much flack if the movie bombed, that they still have a job, which is, in most cases they do, which is mind-boggling that the studios keep relying on the same people who've made a bunch of bombs for them. But that's the studio system. In the independent film business, we tried to, and it has been to some degree become formularized. And we tried, when I was making films for William Morris, making lots of movies at the same time, it was much easier for us to really start to formularize how we were going to do it each time out of the gate. And the way that you do it, this doesn't, I don't mean to sound simplistic, but basically the same process that we all go through is you look at your movie, you figure out what's the least you can make it for, you go to some foreign sales companies, you get them to do some estimates based on what they think with the package that you have, the director and the star and the script and the genre, and they tell you what they think. You go to 3 or 4 of them, and that's much easier said than done, because they got to have prior relationships with these people. But I'll get to that one in a second. You go and you figure out what they think they're going to sell the movie for, and they come up with a list of what they think. Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Japan. Every country in the world. There's about 40 of them, and they do a list of what they think is going to be what they're going to ask people for in each country, and what they ultimately think they're going to receive. The worst case scenario, what are they going to get in each country? And then banks look at that line of the worst case scenario, and they add up the number at the bottom. And I'm making this up. It says $3 million total. Then you know that after they take their distribution fee off the top and then all their costs off the top, that you're going to probably end up, if you're lucky, with about $2.5 million. And then the U.S. distribution is really tricky, so you probably write down 0. And then so you got $2.5 million, and you got this budget that's whatever. You should be trying to make your movie for, in my mind, around $2.5 million. You should, and if that 2.5, and you can add to it maybe the soft money, or maybe you don't, and you reduce the risk even more by taking it down to $2.2 million. But you're trying, in my mind, to every time out of the gate go make a movie. And I'm not saying this happens all the time. And a lot of friends of mine don't do this, and so this is where they start to lose money in movies. You try each time, in my mind, to make the movie such that you're not going to get the $2.5 million up front from a foreign sales company. They're not going to give it to you. They're going to eventually sell it there. And what you're doing is going to investors saying, I think eventually we're going to get back $2.5 million from the foreign. They say it's 3, but we take that, the distribution fees that cost, and some countries that won't sell. We think we're going to get $2.5 million back. We're going to get $500,000 in soft money on my movie. So it's really a $2 million net cost. And if we make it for that, then we still have a little bit of room in against the foreign if they don't quite pay off. And the U.S. will be the upside for the movie. That's what you're thinking. Now, other people do it differently, and they put in a number against the U.S., and they put in all these foreign numbers that are much bigger, and that's where they get murdered, because it turns out that, in fact, you're probably much closer to the truth, which is it's the lower number, and maybe it's a 0 in the U.S. So that's a little formula. It's worked fairly well for me over the years, and there are some movies that don't fit these formulas. There's comedies like Napoleon Dynamite. You could never do that with this, because with that kind of movie, because no foreign sales company is going to take a movie that's a purely an American comedy and give you any numbers whatsoever, because they say, who are the stars? Never heard of them. Okay, that's worth 0. And in fact, it's not worth 0. The movie did extremely well overseas.
Actually, it's worth just about 0, because
it
did $44 million in the domestic box office, but 1 internationally.
Right.
So any foreign sales company that would have looked at it would have been completely right in saying there's no star and this comedy will not travel.
So your premise to your investor was 100% right. You could lose the entire $500,000. So take a shot here, because it's a funny movie, and if it really works, it's really going to work.